Ghế massage Luraco là ghế duy nhất được sản xuất tại Hoa Kỳ, là ghế duy nhất được làm vật lý trị liệu trong các căn cứ quân sự Hoa Kỳ.
Chúng tôi đã xuất rất nhiều ghế về Việt Nam, thủ tục nhanh chóng, đơn giản, mua trực tiếp từ nhà sản xuất. Xin liên lạc Luraco qua thông tin trên màn hình.
Kính chào quý vị, tôi là luật sư di trú Vũ Tuấn Huy, luật sư điều hành của tổ hợp luật sư di trú PhoBolsaTV Group, dành cho quý vị đang quan tâm đến vấn đề di trú Mỹ hay muốn tìm hiểu về cách thức định cư hợp pháp và hiệu quả. Tất cả sẽ được giải đáp trong buổi chia sẻ trực tiếp trên kênh PhoBolsaTV.
Chương trình sẽ bắt đầu vào mỗi thứ Tư hàng tuần lúc 5 giờ chiều.
Quý vị cho một tràng pháo tay để chào đón hai section chair, đó là tiến sĩ Nguyễn Quốc Cường và giáo sư Anna Wyszowska.
Welcome back from the lunch. I hope we had a great lunch and also had a great opportunity to network, communicate, and continue insightful discussion with other fellow attendees today. Joining us today, I would like to hand over to our moderator, Professor Anna Wyszowska and Dr. Nguyễn Quốc Cường. Thank you very much.
Kính thưa các vị đại biểu, kính thưa các quý vị, tôi xin trân trọng giới thiệu giáo sư Anna Wyszowska là cùng với tôi hôm nay là chủ tọa cái phiên họp phiên thứ 3 về chủ đề hợp tác nghiên cứu và phát triển trong khoa học trái đất, cũng như là trong khoa học về tài nguyên môi trường và bảo tồn di sản. Xin giới thiệu là giáo sư Anna Wyszowska là hiện nay là phó viện trưởng Viện Khoa học Địa chất, Viện Hàn lâm Khoa học Ba Lan, và trước là nguyên là phó chủ nhiệm khoa địa chất thuộc thuộc trường Đại học Tổng hợp Warsaw. Đồng thời giáo sư Anna Wyszowska là được bổ nhiệm là trưởng phái đoàn các nhà khoa học Ba Lan hợp tác với Việt Nam trong cái việc xây dựng trạm nghiên cứu nhiệt đới Ba Lan Việt Nam tại Việt Nam. Và hôm nay ở trong cái buổi giao lưu cùng với cả các quý vị thì có giáo sư Yaroslav Stolarski là viện trưởng Viện Cổ sinh vật học, không phải là cổ sinh mà cổ sinh vật học, tức là paleobiology chứ không phải là paleontology. Thế thì cũng thuộc Viện Hàn lâm Khoa học Việt Nam, cũng là phó trưởng đoàn các nhà khoa học Ba Lan hợp tác với Việt Nam. Và hôm nay cũng rất là tiếc, tức là giáo sư Mariusz Żukowski, ông là giám đốc của cái trung tâm nghiên cứu Andy, tức là có các cái trụ thuộc Đại học Tổng hợp Warsaw. Thì giáo sư chính là được bổ nhiệm là trưởng đoàn các nhà khoa học Ba Lan hợp tác với Việt Nam trong việc xây dựng cái trạm nghiên cứu về nhiệt đới Việt Nam Ba Lan tại Việt Nam. Và hôm nay thì giáo sư Żukowski không đến được vì cũng bận một cái cuộc hội nghị khác, nhưng mà có gửi cho hội nghị chúng ta một cái bộ phim là nói về các cái thành tựu của Ba Lan, trong đó là về di sản văn hóa, bảo tồn và khảo cổ, mà trong đó có những các cái mà đóng góp cho Việt Nam, và mong muốn là sẽ hợp tác Việt Nam để phát triển trong cái mảng gọi khảo cổ, trùng tu và bảo tồn di sản văn hóa. Vâng, xin nhường lời cho giáo sư Ania Wysocka nói giới thiệu về cái chương trình hợp tác của chúng tôi.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a great pleasure for me to be here, to be with you. First, I was in Vietnam in 2000, so it's more than 20 years. However, I still do not understand Vietnamese, and I cannot talk. But I hear that Quang explain you about me, Yaroslav Stolarski, and Professor Żukowski. So I would like to introduce you Nguyen Quang, our friend geologist, the man who was with us in every moment in Vietnam, who helped us a lot, and who was a spiritus movens of our work in Vietnam. So Quang, thank you very much for introduction, and I would like to introduce you.
Bà biết ông đã giới thiệu bà.
So our evening session is devoted mainly to geology, paleobiology and actualistic research in marine environment. So I would like to start with my presentation. This presentation is on Polish-Vietnamese geological cooperation from 2000 up to now. However, Polish geologists was working in Vietnam in past. They started in 1957. So more than 70 years ago, first Polish geologist was working in Vietnam. They did mapping and they did a seismic station in Vietnam. So it's a very long-lasting cooperation. So I only show you the only small part of this cooperation. As I said, my first time in Vietnam was in 2000, so I start from 2000. So as you see on this picture, we were a group and we are a group of people that work in Vietnam. This picture is from 2009, when we reached Fancy Pan Peak, completely different than present day. No cable lift, no roads, so it was a challenge to go on a top of the Fancy Pan. However, we were there in a group of people, Polish and Vietnamese geologists. You see, I'm a little bit different than now. This is me, and this is Quang. So we were there in 2009. So as I said, we are working as a group, as a team of Polish and Vietnamese people. It is impossible to put every name. So I decided to put only some names. So as you see from the Vietnamese side, the most important person is Quang, and we have a lot of cooperators. For example, Phan Dong Pha, Hoang Van Ta, Do Van Tang. You see here our young generation from Vietnam, and others. From the Polish side, my person, and PhoBolsaTV, Ula Czarniecka, Radek Staniszewski, so on. A lot of people. And last year joined us a group of paleobiologists as well. So we are growing, as you see. In Poland and Vietnam, we are a growing group of scientists involved in the investigations in Vietnam. Only a few words on geology, okay? Because I know that some of you are geologists, but not all. So only few words why Vietnam is so important for geology. We are in the Southeast Asia. We are somewhere in the border, geological border, between Indochina and China. So it means that we have a really important geological structures in this area, especially Red River Fault zone. So, and this zone running up to the East Sea. So it means that we can work either in the landward part of Vietnam and seaward part of Vietnam. So because, for example, for the oil and gas investigation in the East Vietnam. So our group was working mainly in northern Vietnam. All these jobs point the points in which we were. So we investigated a lot of places and we did a lot of work. I'm sedimentologist, so I'm working on the reconstruction of ancient environments, and you see some examples how it's possible to work in the rocks and how it's possible to interpret the environment. So you see some explanation, you see the clastic rocks, some channelized facies, and it's possible to interpret that in the past, about 30 million years ago, it was a sand-dominated fluvial channel. So based on our analysis, it is possible to interpret the environment in the past. And so we can do plenty of sections, we can correlate it, and even we can explain the structure, for example, of the coal-bearing series in Na Dung in northern Vietnam. And based on our investigation, we prepared a lot of papers published in high-ranked journals. We published, I think, that more than 20 papers, and you see the abstract from one of such a paper. It explains the geological situation and readers the interpretation of ancient on past environment. So this is geology and how we are in Vietnam and why we are in Vietnam and why we are working on these sections. Of course, we have a lot of joint scientific cooperation. Some topics were done, but some of them are still ongoing. So, for example, we are working together on Oligocene terrestrial depositional system of northern Vietnam, and there is a cooperation between University of Warsaw, Institute of Geology, Sciences, Polish Academy of Sciences, and of course with institutions from Vietnam. The second new idea, the new proposition is to work on volcanoclastic formation of a central Vietnam, deposition mechanism, age relation to volcanic traps. This is a preliminary, however, we are working on it. We were in the field, so you can see probably you are the first, you see the first draft and first photographs from diatomites from central Vietnam. So now we try to work in central Vietnam as well, not only in the northern part of Vietnam. Because we are a group of geologists and we are a group of scientists and academic teachers. Not only geological scientific activity is important for us. Of course, we remember about young generation, about education, and about cooperation in education. There was some PhD degree for Vietnamese people that was reached in Poland. I know that nowadays it's only few, but in the past, the cooperation between Poland and Vietnam was broader, and a lot of Vietnamese students finished studies in Poland. So I think that this is the goal, to have large number, not so small like now, to enlarge this number of young people and to work together and offer for them education. Here you see the group of Polish students in Vietnam in 2014 or 15, and it was really good time. Here you see Dr. Tang, he is here with us. He's a PhD student at the University of Warsaw now. And here is Juan Van Pa. He finished his PhD dissertation 4 or 5 years ago. So we are active and we are cooperating between Poland and Vietnam in education, higher education as well. And as I said at the beginning, we think that not only geology is important for Polish and Vietnamese people. I know that you listened to the talks from University of Łódź, and we are a group of the people from natural sciences, so we think that we should cooperate in natural sciences as well. So for us it's very important to look for such cooperation, to start such cooperation, not only in geology, in archaeology, biology, chemistry, paleobiology as well. So what's our offer? Some of you probably know that last year in November we had a really good big conference in Hanoi. It was called New Opening, Polish-Vietnamese Scientific Conference. It was financed by Polish Ministry of Higher Education. And we had more than 200 participants from Vietnam and more than 30 people from Poland. We had panel sessions, plenary sessions, as well as field trips. One day field session excursion in Haiphong and
Và có đi ra
7
ngoài
days
thực địa
field
ở Hải Phòng nữa.
trip, one in northern Vietnam, the second in the central part of Vietnam. The main
tới những cái vùng
organizer
ở miền
of
Việt
this
Nam.
conference was University of Warsaw and the Institute of Paleobiology,
Tham gia
Polish
với
Academy of
cái
Sciences, Institute of
trường đại học
Geological
PhoBolsaTV
Sciences,
rồi một số
Vietnam
những trường
Institute of Geosciences
ở
and
Việt Nam,
Mineral Resources, and plenty of other institutions. So
Và
I
nhiều
think
cái viện khác nữa.
that this conference was really good point to start to work in a different way, not based on personal
Hội thảo như thế này chúng ta có
but
thể làm
based
việc trong nhiều cái cách thức khác nhau nữa.
institutional contacts, because we are a group of people from different institutions.
Vì
So I
chúng tôi
hope
là
that
những
in the future it will be
từ nhiều
even
cái viện nghiên
easier
cứu
to
khác
work.
nhau.
And as you see in this conference, participated a lot of people.
Ví dụ như là mọi người có thấy
For example, here
cái hội thảo này
you
có rất là nhiều người khác nhau nè.
rector of University of Warsaw,
Ví dụ như ông này là ở
the vice
trên
minister
đại học
from the Ministry of Environment from Vietnam,
đại học
and
PhoBolsaTV,
others.
rồi ông
So
khác là ở Việt Nam.
really big group of scientists, Polish and Vietnamese.
Nhiều
And
khoa học gia
additionally,
từ
during
Ba
this
Lan và Việt Nam.
conference, we had a lot of meetings. For
Trong cái chỗ
example,
này thì chúng tôi có rất là
rector
nhiều
of
cái buổi họp.
University of Warsaw met Polish people that graduated at the university in Warsaw at the past.
Đây
So
là những
it
người
was
mà
really, really
học Warsaw trong quá khứ.
good meeting, and after
là
this
những cái buổi,
meeting,
gọi là
rector
họp,
decided to publish, to
thành công.
prepare the memory book of Vietnamese people that graduated at the University of Warsaw. And
có
we
người
have
Việt
a
Nam cũng đều
meeting
đọc
with
Warsaw.
Vice Minister from Polish Ministry of Higher Education, Tomasz Rzymkowski. As you see, the most important persons, VPI, received gratulation and a kind of, not medal, but the minister would like to say thank you for the Vietnamese cooperation from the Vietnamese side. And the most
Cảm ơn sự hợp
important
tác của Việt
moment
Nam từ phía Việt Nam trong
after
vấn
the
đề hợp tác này.
conference, it was the moment in which we opened Polish-Vietnamese Tropical Research Center. This is relatively new idea. This idea started more than 10 years ago,
Này là hồi
but
10
2
năm trước
years
rồi đó.
ago we split a lot. So we have a special committee. We are working on such an idea to have a joint Polish-Vietnamese Tropical Research Center in Vietnam. And from the Vietnamese side, Vietnam Institute of Geosciences and Mineral Resources offered to us rooms. So we have rooms. We have an open station. But now we are working on collaboration. We are looking for people that would like to work, not only geologists, biologists, etc. We would like to have a really good Polish-Vietnamese place in Vietnam. Yesterday I met people from the ministries, ministries, and they offer us a lot of help. So I hope that we will work in reality. It's not only be the idea only to show you. I think that it will be a good place for all Polish and Vietnamese people to meet together in Hanoi, in Vietnam Institute of Geosciences and Mineral Resources. And some additional information, I'm going to the end. So this April, I was in Vietnam with the group of archaeologists and with the filming group, and we had a small conference for about 40 people, history and perspectives of Polish-Vietnamese research cooperation. This conference group mainly archaeologists and geologists as well. We discussed a lot. We decided for a new projects, for example, in central Vietnam for Savine culture, for example. And I think that we will work from this autumn on these completely new projects. And during this this stay in Vietnam in April, we had the possibility to do a film about Polish geologists in Vietnam. Probably you know the name Kwiatkowski, the most important Polish archaeologists, can say, that helped in Mission and Hoi An to cover these cultural places. But there are, as I said previously, some group of Polish geophysicists in the previous century and a group of Polish cartographers. So we did a film, and we did a lot of talks with old people, to say true, to have a knowledge about this previous time. And at the end, I would like to show you only the short part of this film. This film will be ready in 1 or 2 months, and I hope that it will be possible to share with you this film. But now only trial of this film. It's only 2 minutes and a half, and
Và cái đoạn này
enjoy
giờ ngắn
this
thôi,
film.
2 phút rưỡi thôi. Mọi người thưởng thức nhé.
This is Marta Żółkowska, archaeologist. This is me and Dr. Ania Filipek, who are working in the Yenbai area.
Gọi là giáo sư khác đó.
And of course, Hoi An and Mission.
Đây là Hội An.
Kazimierz Kwiatkowski.
Và một cái
Hoi An, the monument from Hoi An.
Một cái tượng đài ở Hội An. Chúng ta có thể thấy trên cái tựa đó là đề là hợp tác về địa chất giữa Việt Nam và Ba Lan 2000 tới 2024 và những hoạt động gần đây. Nhạc nền nghe rất là lạ tai. Không biết mọi người biết cái nhạc nền này là thuộc về dòng nhạc gì không? Cảnh Hội An. Nhạc này nghe giống một chút xíu Nhật Bản ở trong đó.
Here you see the Maison.
Và bây giờ nhạc chuyển sang âm hưởng Ấn Độ.
We did some lidar measurements during this field trip.
Những cảnh trong cái cuốn phim 2 phút rưỡi mà bà trích ra phát cho chúng ta.
So Thank you very much. It's all what I want to say you and to show you. And at the end, I would like to ask you all from Poland and from Vietnam, if you have any question, we can discuss everything. And of course, I invite you to join to our idea to build a Polish-Vietnamese Tropical Research Center in Vietnam. Thank you.
Có những cái viện nghiên cứu nhiệt đới ở Việt Nam.
Thank you very much, Professor Anya Wysoska. So next talk is about please Professor Solarski to have some presentations for the PhoBolsaTV. It's Vietnam on the coral reefs in the Vietnam East Sea.
Okay, so good afternoon.
Ông này sẽ nói về cái việc mà hợp tác giữa Việt Nam và Ba Lan về cái chương trình nghiên cứu san hô.
I visited Vietnam last year. This was my first visit, and actually already spectacular. Already, I knew a lot about the Vietnam, but what I saw was actually very moving me and very interesting from scientific perspective and from other perspective as well. So I'm paleobiologist. So one may ask what we are doing, what paleontologists can do in Vietnam. Of course, can do a lot, especially there are many Paleozoic rocks in the northern Vietnam. So there are also members of our institute, Institute of Paleobiology, Polish Academy of Sciences, who work in northern Vietnam in Paleozoic rocks and Paleozoic fossils. But so usually when you think about the paleobiology, you are thinking about the dinosaurs. Of course, we have a very good group of researchers at our institute who work on dinosaurs. But myself and my group, actually we are specializing something different. We are specializing in reefs and corals in particular. So paleobiology is that type of discipline which have access to time. Because we are looking at evolution of life from a long-term perspective, which is particularly useful, I think, in present days when everybody is actually facing the climate change. So all the aspects related to the climate change, to the needs of the coral reefs, this is something that paleontologists can deal with. And actually, this is my specialization. I work with corals, so that's why the sort of perspective, long-term perspective on reef development, also in modern reefs and going into the past, is the most fascinating topic for my group. So the big picture of the modern coral reefs in Vietnam is that the coral reefs of Vietnam, which are located in the East Sea, they are adjacent to the western part of Coral Triangle. Coral Triangle is the place in the world which has the highest biodiversity of corals. There are more than 70% of modern corals are known from this relatively small region of Coral Triangle, and Vietnam is not in the center of the Coral Triangle, but is touching it. That's why obviously there are many species, coral species, which are shared with the Coral Triangle. And so that's why if we are concerned about the fate of the coral reefs in the Coral Triangle, that's why in the world, we need to touch the corals in Vietnam. So there are many publications from the past about the coral reefs. There is more than 100,000 hectares of reefs in Vietnam. Along the coast, there are several regions that you Vietnamese people know very well. And there are, of course, some old, relatively old, and some modern papers, scientific contributions about the let's say about the taxonomy of this coral. So how many species we have in Vietnam? There were some Russian scientists who work on this traditional taxonomical approach. And we also have papers dealing with the current situation, the situation that the corals are dying because of the elevated temperature. So there are already publications dealing with this. There are many information about the situation in coral reefs in Vietnam, which are they are based on monitoring in Vietnam, but also the satellite monitoring. So we have the NOAA satellite information service, where we can actually almost online observe what is the situation with the temperature, with the potential crisis on these reefs. And there are also there is a reef centralized information system where you can access a lot of information. The quality of the water, the temperature, the other parameters can be monitored. So what is going on with the reefs in Vietnam? So there are four regions which are where the reefs are particularly spectacular. And we were thinking that this is something we should take the opportunity to really establishing this tropical center in Vietnam. It should be not only the center in Hanoi, but we should have also a station, marine station, along the coast.
Không chỉ nên chỉ có một cái trung tâm ở Hà Nội mà cũng nên có thành lập những cái trung tâm gọi là dọc biển.
We can accelerate collaboration with, especially with biological sciences within the biological
cần phải đẩy nhanh cái tiến trình gọi là hợp tác giữa các
also train the students from Vietnam to really work with corals, with not only corals, with all these animals living on coral reefs, which are so important. So we were actually for a long time we were thinking that this establishment of such a marine station,
chúng ta đã nghĩ tới việc thành lập các cái trung tâm gọi là biển.
We can start experiments, start to make observations on coral reefs is really important. So during our last year trip, we were particularly
trong cái chuyến đi năm ngoái của chúng tôi đó, chúng tôi
find the spot that potentially can be interesting. And actually, Anya Wysocka told me last year, but beginning of last year, that during her visit, previous year, she found something very interesting. And this is the region, the central Vietnam, but it's a Ba Lang Am.
Đây là cái khu vực ở vùng miền Trung Việt Nam.
Beautiful location. We were before we were thinking about another location nearby, but we already noticed that it's quite polluted. The area, there are many fishermen. Whereas here, when we arrived, we realized that this is a sort of paradise. Because it's you will see, this is a beautiful place.
And this is the entrance to the
lighthouse. There's a very nice infrastructure. There is also plenty of land where you could just establish a small building container at the beginning, probably later reinforce to more solid building. But anyway, there is from infrastructural point of view, there is already infrastructure there. Inside the lighthouse, there is plenty of there is a very nice facility, by the way. They have the energy generator. They have also very many rooms for meetings, etc. And there are beautiful two small bays, one on the southern side and one on the northern side, and they are a little bit protected. So we saw the fishermen with boats. So these boats can be actually hide, and so obviously there is some protection. If we would have our own boat, this could be probably arranged with a fisherman. And there is this small bay. On the other side, there is another small bay where we were thinking. When we arrived, I started immediately to dream about this, because when you see this, you can imagine that this will be a building there on the plateau, and then you will have the access, direct access to the seawater from this horizontal bay, pumped to the experimental aquaria, which will be located on plateau, and then because of the infrastructure, it will be well equipped with electricity, etc. And
Vì cái cơ sở hạ tầng này nó đã sẵn sàng có điện nước.
So this is really the fantastic place to think, to dream, at the moment to dream, but hopefully to actually to realize this in a collaboration.
Đây là cái
I think also Vietnamese students will be absolutely delighted to spend their practices, biological practices together with us on this. I'm absolutely sure. No doubt about this. So we also had the opportunity to look at the corals there. Not exactly in the spot. There were plenty of
cơ hội để mà gọi là nghiên cứu các cái dạng san hô này.
Corals right in the place, but we went a little bit to the south, to the Natrank area, etc. And then we had the opportunity to look at the corals, to snorkel, to see. There are corals. They are not super healthy. In this area. So, actually, I made a small movie just to show you that the corals are there. And also other life. So we have some sea urchins. There were some corals, of course, many fish. This is not really the spot where particularly chosen because of the beauty of the corals, just randomly selected, but just to show you that just randomly you can already observe this beautiful life just below. But the truth is that the situation is not super optimistic, I would say. That's why I think it would be extremely good to reinforce the collaboration by proposing a project that will be focused on the preservation of preservation of corals. Okay, so you see there are many different types of corals around. It was a beautiful time. I would like to return.
Tôi có thể nói đó là thời gian rất là tuyệt vời.
The dreams are emerging immediately when you look at this, and you are starting to think about this
nhìn thấy cái cảnh này, mọi người có thể bắt đầu mơ ra có
we
sự hợp
think
tác.
that we can propose four topics which will be the biodiversity assessment of the corals.
Nói về
This is more complicated, so-called seascape genomics. This is more complicated project, but anyway, it is feasible in this region. Then, of course, there is plenty of issues related to the pollution, to the plastic, to the trace element pollution, which is necessary to address to protect the reefs. And then, of course, from purely paleontological perspective, to look in the time, evolution of the monsoon climate in Vietnam. So we think that the big things have a small beginnings, so we just begun.
Tôi nghĩ rằng là những cái việc làm lớn đều bắt đầu từ những cái việc nhỏ.
We hope that this will be a big.
Chúng tôi làm những bước nhỏ và hy vọng nó sẽ dẫn tới những cái vấn đề
We have
lớn
this
hơn.
integrative molecular morphological taxonomy of corals. Then we can have this experimental studies on biomineralization, environmental stress, and also this access to the time, to the evolution of reefs in Vietnam, and prospect of the evolution of reefs in Vietnam. And just another small piece that we actually did in Vietnam was that we visited this ancient coral system in Han Cray, and we already collected samples. We are making some investigations, some actually probably we will discuss the results which were already published on this, which we have a slightly different idea how this structure was formed. So I'm hoping that really step by step, but we are developing a good relations, good collaboration
từng bước một
with
chúng ta sẽ mở ra được sự hợp
our
tác.
institute also signed two documents agreement between the two institutions in Vietnam. But I really hope that the dream that we have will be fulfilled one day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cảm ơn ông.
to clarify the situation, I was talking about Polish-Vietnamese tropical station that is already exist in Hanoi.
Để tôi nói cho nó rõ ràng
This
ra
is
là
true,
những cái
but
trạm
we
mà gọi là
have
nghiên
additional
cứu
dream to have
giữa hai
a
phía
station on
Việt
the
Nam
seaside, not only rooms
và
in Hanoi. So as you
Ba
see,
Lan và Việt Nam
we
nó
are dreaming.
có rồi nằm ở Hà Nội.
But
Nhưng mà
I
cái mà chúng
hope
tôi
that
đang muốn nói đó
only
là
dreamer
lập những cái trạm mà
can
ngay
do
sát bờ
something.
biển luôn đó.
So
Chúng tôi là những người biết
I can
có
promise
giấc
you
mơ
that we will work
để có
hard
những cái trạm đó nó ngay bờ biển.
to do
vậy đó.
it. Thank you.
Vâng, xin cũng giới thiệu thêm, tức là hai cái vị trí mà vừa rồi giáo sư Stolarski đi nghiên cứu đấy, thì lại đúng là hai cái vị trí mà ở trong cái đoàn đi Trường Sa năm 2019 là chúng tôi cũng đã đến thăm ở hai cái điểm đấy, ở chỗ Hang Rái đấy và ở cái chỗ Ninh Thuận. Và hai cái điểm ấy là hai điểm đẹp, và tôi đã chỉ điểm cho ông đến và ông đã lặn xuống bơi và đã nghiên cứu cái như này. I'm talking about the we have been there in more before, and then now we like to introduce you to come to collaborate with Vietnam to study on the biochemistry in the area for the climate changing and also for pollution in the marine environment. Và bây giờ thì xin có lẽ là vì giáo sư hôm nay ấy là như thế là chúng tôi đã giới thiệu toàn bộ cái ban lãnh đạo của cái đoàn các nhà khoa học Ba Lan Hợp tác Việt Nam. Đây là hai phó trưởng đoàn. Thế còn giáo sư hôm nay ông không đến được thì có gửi cho một cái là một cái bộ phim nói về cái thành tựu về nghiên cứu về khảo cổ, trùng tu và bảo tồn di sản mà sắp tới là cũng từ ở cái việc xây dựng cái trạm nghiên cứu nhiệt đới này thì chúng tôi sẽ có những các cái nghiên cứu khảo cổ dưới nước và cũng có những các cái đầu tư của nhà nước Ba Lan đang dự kiến để đầu tư để làm cái việc vấn đề về bảo tồn di sản. Và xin mời mọi người chúng ta xem cái bộ phim đã được chuyển sang tiếng Việt.
Okay, only short information that Professor Ziółkowski, archaeologist, today cannot join us because of personal reasons, and he asked me to give you some few information about the archaeological activity. Can you stop for a moment? Okay, so last year, archaeologist was in Vietnam and was working in the field, and they started collaboration on Savin culture and on rock and some ceramics. And we did measurements, LIDAR measurements in my son. So we started to work, and our film is not ready. But we would like to show you the film about the Polish achievements in archaeology in all over the world, to let you know how archaeologists could work, can work in different countries. And in this film will be a part of Vietnam as well. So now we will see the film against the sense of time.
Bây giờ thì chúng ta sẽ xem cái phim.
In the 1930s, Warsaw was a prosperous and elegant city. Vibrant streets, modern architecture, and a scent of luxury were the hallmarks of the capital of Poland. A country that had recently regained its independence. Warsaw of its 1930s heyday was lost when the city was almost erased from the map of Europe at the end of the last World War. "90% of the buildings in Warsaw were leveled by the Nazi German occupiers. Streets that once bustled with life were obliterated in the ruins."
Có phim bằng tiếng Anh nhưng mà có phụ đề bằng tiếng Việt, mọi người có thể tự theo dõi.
That's an sad heritage of the Polish experience of the Second World War, where the large part of our national heritage was destroyed or dispersed. We recognize the importance of protection and helping in protection of national heritage, especially of those people who are living in the area which is cradle of our own civilization.
The will of the people fueled the task of rebuilding Warsaw and other cities. The project involved a generation of engineers, architects, and conservation experts. They were inspired to join teams of archaeologists in a race against the sands of time. Their goal, to rescue the most precious ancient artifacts on our planet. After the war, one of the first Polish missions abroad was led by a prominent archaeologist from Warsaw.
Professor Michalowski was a pioneer on the Polish ground of active archaeological research in the eastern part of the Mediterranean. He wanted to be a field archaeologist, and even more, he considered that the fact that Poland, which after the First World War just regained back its independence, needs to be present in the field of archaeology dealing with ancient civilization.
His best-known mission was to Nubia, the border area between Sudan and Egypt. A major archaeological survey and salvage operation was conducted in the area that was to be flooded by the waters of the Nile after the Aswan High Dam was completed. Professor Michalowski's mission found a Christian cathedral and saved its priceless wall paintings. Restored by Polish conservation specialists, they are now on display in the National Museums of Khartoum and Warsaw. The paintings were found by Professor Michalowski in Faras, North Sudan, in the ruins of an 8th century Christian cathedral. They represent religious subjects, angels, saints, the Virgin Mary, and Jesus Christ. When the wall paintings arrived in Poland, they were subjected to an environment that was very different to the hot and dry conditions of the African desert. In Poland, the climate is humid, and this can cause soluble salts to leach out of the paintings. From time to time, the paintings have to undergo detailed inspection. When necessary, an adhesive is applied to prevent detachment of the paint layer.
The most symbolic wall paintings of them all, at least for Polish archaeology, is the mural of Saint Anna. It's not only the symbol of the exhibition at the National Museum in Warsaw, but it's a symbol of Polish nubiology. It's the symbol of where it all started.
Over the course of 50 years, archaeologists and conservators have unearthed cities and temples, discovered palaces, and examined ancient tombs. In Sudan, they took part in a major salvage operation when the government in Khartoum decided to build a dam at the 4th cataract of the Nile.
Old Dongola, or Tungul as it was called in native Nubian language, was one of the largest cities in medieval Africa and probably worldwide. The thing that attracted Professor Michalowski's attention were columns made of stone projecting out of the sands.
was the capital of the ancient kingdom of Makuria. 60 years after Michałowski's mission, Polish archaeologists made an extraordinary discovery.
We have found an enormously big church right in the middle of the city, in the heart of the city. When we started to excavate, it turned out that we see a curvy wall. And a curvy wall in medieval Nubia is the sanctuary of the church. The walls of the church are standing up to 11 meters high. The church itself is probably over 1,000 square meters in size, which makes it the largest known church in the entire Nubia. Definitely, the entire church was decorated with wall paintings. We found some traces of wall paintings still preserved in the apse of the church.
Chiếu bộ phim này thì sẽ có
I strongly believe in collaborative archaeology. At the moment, everything that we do in Old Dongola, we previously discussed with local communities. We discuss our research priorities, but we also discuss all the protection measures and conservation measures. We all agreed that we should use traditional methods using organic materials. We want to build community-embedded tourism to allow local communities to benefit from the heritage that is just next door. In the future, we are aiming to train local guides who can guide the tours not only across the site but also in the local villages.
At the Bayouda Desert in Sudan, an archaeological mission from Gdansk works on a huge concession that is half the size of Poland. After surveys from the air and on the ground, they found and saved hundreds of tombs and precious art objects. Some of them, like these engraved pictures, date to prehistoric times, when the Sahara was not a desert, but a green savanna populated with wildlife. Professor Michałowski was also involved as the UNESCO team leader in the Swedish-led project to salvage the great Abu Simbel temples of southern Egypt. Temples that otherwise would have been inundated by the rising waters of the Aswan High Dam. Colossal statues were cut into pieces, moved 65 meters, and then reassembled above the waters of Lake Nasser, creating one of the most interesting and spectacular tourist attractions in Egypt. 500 kilometers down the Nile, Polish researchers work at Deir el-Bahari. Their mission to reconstruct the temple of Queen Hatshepsut began in the early 1960s. Using sophisticated laser technology, a team of archaeologists, architects, and engineers have been able to produce a highly detailed three-dimensional map of the site, showing buildings, ramps, rooms, chambers, and hallways. Not only as they look now after the reconstruction, but also as they looked in antiquity. After careful reconstruction, the beautiful paintings on the east wall of the Thutmose III sanctuary are now revealed in their full glory. With this digital model, we can enter the chapel of Hatshepsut in the royal cult complex. The complex of the sun cult is also part of the digital tour. North of Luxor in Saqqara, near Cairo, another team of Polish Egyptologists, led by Professor Karol Myślewicz, made the discovery of the extraordinary tomb of the vizier Berefnebef, who served the pharaohs during the 6th dynasty period.
It was believed that the souls of the dead came through this doorway to partake of the offerings left in the chapel by the living. The family and priests of the funerary cult laid these offerings on the table in front of the false door. Naturally, the food was later consumed by the priests, but even so, the soul was believed to have been nourished as well.
At the edge of the delta of the mighty Nile River, the last capital of ancient Egypt is coming back to life as a result of excavations by a team of Polish experts. Right in the middle of the busy streets of present-day Alexandria, one can see for the first time the layout of a sophisticated urban complex, revealing the importance of the ancient city. Streets lined with houses and shops, thermal bars, a theatre, and the oldest university in the world, remnants of one of the great capitals of the ancient world. Less than 500 kilometers to the north, another ancient city is giving up its secrets to a team of explorers. Near Paphos was the capital of Cyprus for 5.5 centuries. The island, known as the birthplace of Aphrodite, was highly valued for its strategic location in the eastern Mediterranean. Polish excavations in the island's capital were launched in 1965. They focused on the residential quarter of the city and the agora, the large main square. Studying the layout of the ancient city, scientists were able to better understand its Greek origins. They also discovered buildings containing magnificent Roman period floor mosaics, showing Theseus in the labyrinth, the first bath of Achilles, Poseidon, and Amphitrite. A local school of mosaics continued in Cyprus for 800 years. In the House of Ion, conservators managed to partially reconstruct wall paintings portraying Apollo and the Muses. In the Agora, archaeologists found a rich hoard of artifacts, some in a deep city well, others in the buildings nearby. By analyzing them, experts were able to learn more about the function of this public area and the life of its citizens. It also led them to push back the date when the Agora was built by 3 centuries to the 2nd century BC. A much older culture is being investigated in the far eastern end of the Arabian Peninsula, in Oman. The mysterious stone towers are almost 4,500 years old. They stand in the ancient land of Magan, mentioned in the old Sumerian texts. Their function is still not fully understood. Were they the residences of rulers, vaults for treasures, watchtowers? What is certain is that in the past, this remote region was a rich source of copper, a strategically important resource during the Bronze Age. Remnants of a copper foundry with some copper tools were found by the team working on a site in the Kumaira Valley. Archaeologists made another discovery, a board game unknown in this part of the Near East. Similar objects were found in the royal tombs of Ur in modern-day Iraq, as well as in India, demonstrating that the remote hamlet in the mountains of Oman was once an important part of a broad intellectual and commercial network. For half a century, Polish researchers have also been present in the Fertile Crescent of the Levant, located in Lebanon and Syria.
Solidness of the Polish archaeologists and their professionalism in doing what they do with full engagement, I would say, especially in 2 fields. In the Christian archaeology and in conservation.
In the ancient city of Palmyra, teams led by Professor Mikołowski and Professor Michał Gawlikowski discovered and preserved stone statues and mosaics. Their 3-dimensional reconstruction of the Temple of Alat added greatly to the picture of beauty and splendor of this ancient merchant city located in an oasis on a desert crossroads. But excavations in Syria were abruptly ended when the war broke out. Just days after the battle ended in Palmyra, the first Polish archaeological team was sent in to evaluate the level of destruction. Among the first scientists to arrive, they found that Palmyra had been ravaged by the conflict. They began their mission by shifting the rubble in the destroyed museum. In an improvised field lab, they saved dozens of priceless statues by reassembling the pieces and then finding a proper storage facility for the newly restored ancient artifacts. The important statue of the lion with gazelle, once guarding the temple of Alat, was smashed into pieces by a bulldozer. The team carefully restored the statue. Currently, it's standing in the National Museum in the Syrian capital of Damascus. The lion was fully constructed with the aid of archaeological drawings in Warsaw. When the statue was exhibited, it brought attention to the immense complexity of rebuilding Palmyra's heritage. The exhibition was also a tribute to the late Professor Khaled Al-Assad, longtime Palmyra director and friend of the Poles. After refusing to leave the city, he was decapitated by the terrorists inside the walls of the ancient city. The next challenge to face Polish experts was in Cambodia. Angkor, the famous complex of ancient temples located in the heart of the Cambodian jungle, needed immediate intervention in the late 90s. The country was in a state of collapse after the civil war left 1 million people dead, victims of the Khmer Rouge regime. Polish archaeologists and conservators came to Cambodia right after the bloody war of 1979. That was a very hard time to come to Cambodia. Fields of landmines existed in the jungle, and the Khmer Rouge partisans were active in some places. But Polish scientists were not afraid to come to the war-torn country and provide help. Just across the border in Vietnam, Polish architect and conservator Kazimierz Kwiatkowski saved the ancient complex of Hoi An, one of the most important ancient ports on the South China Sea. His efforts helped preserve the unique layout of the city with its houses and temples, creating one of the largest tourist attractions in Indochina. In South America, we focus our efforts in 4 countries: Peru, Bolivia, Chile, and Ecuador. In the middle of the 19th century, Poles began taking part in the research and salvage of monuments of the New World. Artur Poznański, an Austrian engineer of Jewish-Polish origins, practiced archaeology in his free time. Although his theories about the origin of the Tiwanaku culture are somewhat fanciful, he has contributed significantly to the protection of this emblematic site, which is now on UNESCO's World Heritage List. Our teams of archaeologists and conservators nowadays work in South America at several sites from this list. For example, we do extensive work in Samaipata in Bolivia. Also very important in our work is Cusco in Peru, the ancient capital of the Inca Empire. We do our research in the monastery of Santo Domingo Coricancha. a Christian monastery built on the foundations of the Inca Temple of the Sun. The monastery is home to the priceless paintings of Diego Quispe Tito. As a result of painstaking conservation on two of his paintings by Anna Derontovich-Zakrzewska, she was able to reveal the secrets of the artist's painting techniques. Teams also work with Peruvian colleagues in Machu Picchu. Polish scientists were providing help with laser scanning techniques. Distilled from millions of laser measurement points, researchers created a model that lets them take an incredible virtual tour around the site. At a nearby archaeological site hidden deep in the rainforest, Polish experts used a drone-mounted laser scanning device called LiDAR. It allowed them to virtually remove vegetation and observe the terrain underneath, revealing previously unknown architectural structures. A few years ago, we opened a new direction of archaeological activity in South America, Easter Island. We combined caving and exploration with classical archaeology at that Chilean Pacific island, designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Polish scientists working together with a Rapa Nui team were able to produce unique 3D scans of the famous statues called moai. They also used the same technique in the caves that were used in the past as tombs and shelters. One of the greatest successes of Polish archaeologists in Peru has been the recent discovery of the first ever unlooted royal tomb belonging to the pre-Columbian and pre-Incan dynasty of the Wari rulers. The expedition, led by Dr. Miłosz Gersh, found more than 60 intact skeletons of queens and members of the royal court. This provided experts with an amazing picture of the cult of the dead in this still little-known civilization. The precise 3D scanning of the site revealed the ancient architecture and urban planning of the Wari culture. 3D laser scanners measure the horizontal and vertical angles of the laser and the speed with which the reflected beam comes back to the sensor. With this data, one may draw the entire map of the site. The priceless artifacts recovered from the royal tomb were shown at the Museum of Arts in the capital city of Lima. Golden earrings, silver tableware, pottery, quipus, and fabrics gave the public, for the first time, a view into the beauty, complexity, and power of the Wari civilization. Painstaking reconstruction of the Queen's face was first revealed at an exhibition in Warsaw and then around the world. In North America, archaeologists from Poland are examining a unique culture of Pueblo peoples, Native Americans from the deserts of Utah.
The most important research that we do in southwestern part of Colorado, in the Mesa Verde region, is documentation of the cultural heritage of different Native American groups and societies, both pre-Columbian and historic tribes. They lived almost 1,500 years in southwestern Colorado, and they left this area in the end of the 13th century AD and moved to the Rio Grande Valley in New Mexico, and we document their settlements, the architecture, rock art, paintings and petroglyphs. and the reasons of this mysterious migration of the highly developed Pueblo communities from southwestern Colorado to the south and southeast. Also, we have collaborators from Native American side. Hopi people are coming to consult with us the meaning of the rock art that we are discovering, and also the meaning of the architecture and placement of specific buildings. For example, the relation between towers and settlements built by their ancestors, and connected also to their beliefs and to even to the astronomical observations. We're also focusing on research on the rock art left by ancestral Pueblo people and also historic tribes in this area, Ute and Navajo tribes. Petroglyphs and paintings that they left in the canyon walls and particular boulders and rocks. Beautiful scenes with hunting on buffaloes and deer and mountain sheep, also fighting warriors, pedestrian and on horses. It's actually the first Polish long-term archaeological project in the United States, and also one of very few European activities in the field of archaeology in the entire North America.
Distinctive rock art is also being examined by Polish experts south of the equator in Tanzania. In the Swaga Swaga Game Reserve, Mr. Maciej Gazielczuk, a young archaeologist from Krakow, travels through the tropical forest full of deadly mamba snakes to explore the freestanding rock formations for precious examples of an ancient art. In caverns and under the overhanging walls, where pigments are sheltered from rain and burning sun, he found dozens of examples of hand-drawn pictures. They reveal man-like figures with stylized buffalo heads, as well as different animals, but the meaning of many of the paintings remains unclear. Insights could be gained by studying the Simbo ritual that the local Sandawe tribe still practice. The important elements of the ceremony is entering a trance state and spiritual transformations into certain animals. There is currently no absolute dating of rock art from central Tanzania. Due to degradation of the dye and a lack of motifs depicting domesticated cattle, it can be assumed that they belong to the hunter-gatherer period, so they are at least several thousand years old.
Bạn Dũng Trần nói là nay bonsai chơi lớn vậy, live cả ngày đêm. Live là chuyện bình thường mà, có gì đâu mà chơi lớn, chuyện nhỏ.
In Georgia, a Polish-Georgian mission is excavating an estate located in Gonio, at the very heart of a large fort built by Roman soldiers on the eastern coast of the Black Sea. The house located at this beautiful location appears to have been built for Lucius Flavius Arrianus, also known as Arrian of Nicomedia. He was a close friend of the Roman Emperor Hadrian, a Greek historian, public servant, military commander and philosopher. His best-known achievement was writing a 7-volume masterpiece on the achievements of Alexander the Great. The work preserved the memory of this powerful ruler for future generations. The villa explored by the team was approximately 1,200 square meters. The spacious patio or peristyle of the venue was decorated with splendid mosaics. Just across the border in Armenia, a joint expedition of Armenian and Polish archaeologists is exploring the fortress of Metsamor. The site is roughly 6,000 years old, and during its peak in the late Bronze Age, it occupied nearly 100 hectares. At that time, it was a major metallurgical center of the ancient world, working not only with bronze alloy, but also with pure gold. The rich city was surrounded by thick walls built with surprisingly big stones. Visitors from Greece thought that no human could have moved them, so they called the wall Cyclopean, which means built by the giants, the Cyclops. The city also had 2 temples. Each of them contained an elaborate sacrificial altar. To what god or gods they were dedicated remains unknown. The experience that Polish archaeologists and conservators gained while working all over the world helped them to protect their own national heritage. From preserving the royal Wawel castle in Krakow to cleaning nearby 16th century King Sigismund's chapel with powerful lasers. Siemionki is one of the oldest mines in Europe. It provided people with an extremely valuable mineral, a dark rock with white stripes called flint. Discovered in central Poland just 100 years ago, the site reveals events of the most important transformation in the history of mankind, when 5,000 years ago, Neolithic societies of hunters and gatherers changed their lifestyle forever. They became farmers and domesticated animals. For this new way of life, our ancestors needed sharp tools, and flint was the answer. Flint was mined in Siemionki from almost 2,700 shafts. Some of them were in shallow pits. Others had a deep shaft that brought the miners down to a vast underground labyrinth of narrow and dark winding passages and chambers. Flint is hard, but when it breaks, it creates pieces with a very sharp edge. This feature was used by the craftsmen in production of stone chisels, axes, knives, and spearheads. The prehistoric miners did not leave much information about themselves, just pieces of pottery and a mysterious symbol drawn with charcoal on the wall of the chamber. Some say it shows a woman, others see a map of the mine. The symbol has been adopted as the logo of the Siemionki mine when it was added to the list of UNESCO heritage sites in Poland. The historic salt mine near Krakow in Wieliczka houses a gallery of salt sculptures made of crystals dating from the Middle Ages that was saved from the threat of flood and rising air humidity. We are in the Wieliczka salt mine, which is 700 years old. This place where we are now is the underground chapel of Saint Kinga, a priceless spot in this mine. People who worked here were not artists, they were miners with exceptional sculpting talent. Some parts of the chapel, like the altar and pulpit, were created by them. But this place is also a mining pit, and this monument could not be left without our help, without the miner's hand. So we work to consolidate the rock mass, which is being destroyed by nature. To stop this process, we drill 6-meter-long holes and put in anchors, stainless steel rods, which we then cement with 2-component resin. This is an innovative method which is very safe for the historical monument. We also must use very delicate methods to join individual sculptural elements, and we have a lot of them here. The mine is subject to various destructive activities of nature. Nature wants to destroy what man has done. That is the caverns and voids that have been created. And this is the most dangerous threat here. most recent challenge involves a very special artifact located in the Church of the Virgin Mary in the main city square of the old town of Krakow. Looted by the Nazis during World War II, the 3 stories high medieval wooden altar, sculpted by Witt Stvoř, was meticulously put back in place in the 1950s. Today, it is being disassembled sculpture by sculpture in order to remove the thick layer of dust. On many of the statues, it's necessary to use lasers to get rid of the patina that had gradually coated the artwork over the past 5 centuries. The conservation of Krakow's masterpiece will take several years. Having experienced widespread destruction of their national heritage during World War II, Poles understand the importance of maintaining historical sites.
Phim này đã được nhà văn giáo sư tiến sĩ khoa học Nguyễn Văn Thái chuyển ngữ ra từ tiếng Anh và tiếng Ba Lan sang tiếng Việt. Trong bộ phim thì chúng ta cũng đã thấy tức là có giáo sư Zhukovsky và giáo sư Kochuk là người vừa thực hiện cái việc mà sử dụng cái phương pháp đo lidar để mà tìm các cái di chỉ khảo cổ nó còn nằm ở dưới lòng đất ở vùng Mỹ Sơn. Và sắp tới là chúng tôi sẽ triển khai rộng hơn. Thế và vừa rồi thì là có lẽ là để giáo sư Anya tổng kết những các cái phần mà hợp tác Việt Nam Ba Lan.
So thank you very much for joining us, for listening us. I hope that we'll have a time for discussion, maybe during the coffee break. However, even if we have no time for discussion, please do not hesitate to ask us, to write us, to send an emails, because we would like to build a strong community, strong team of collaborators that can work in Vietnam for scientific purposes mainly. So thank you very much for joining us, and I hope that next time we'll see in Vietnam. So
xin cảm ơn mọi người đã sẽ theo dõi và hy vọng lần tới chúng tôi sẽ gặp ở Việt Nam.
Thank you so much, Thank you so much, Professor Anna Wyszowska and Dr. Nguyễn Quốc Cường for coordinating the section. Thank you so much all of the speakers for such an amazing presentation about the collaboration, the strong connection between Vietnamese community and Polish community in scientific matters. As we are coming to the end of the section, I would like to invite all 3 of you to the stage as we will give you a plaque of appreciation. I would like to invite Mr. Trần Anh Tuấn and Mrs. Cao Hồng Vinh.
Và sau đây xin mời bà Cao Hồng Vinh và ông Trần Anh Tuấn sẽ có phần trao tặng kỷ niệm chương cho speaker và section chair là tiến sĩ Nguyễn Quốc Cường và giáo sư Anna Wyszowska. Một lần nữa xin được cảm ơn tất cả quý vị khách quý đã tham gia trong section 3 và cũng cảm ơn tất cả quý vị khách mời đã có mặt đến thời điểm này. Và sau đây chúng ta sẽ có 30 phút tea break. Xin mời quý vị ra ngoài nghỉ ngơi trước khi bắt đầu section tiếp theo vào lúc 16 giờ ạ.
Thank you so much, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, for joining our section 3 today. We will have a 30-minute coffee break, and we will be back at 4 p.m. Thank you very much.
Nơi anh đến là biển xa, nơi anh tới ngoài đảo xa. Từng mảnh đất quê ta giữa đại dương mang tình thương quê nhà. Đây Trường Sa, kia Hoàng Sa, ngàn bão tố phong ba ta vượt qua mây xa. Lướt sóng con tàu mang tín hiệu trong đất liền. Mắt em nhìn theo con tàu đi xa mãi, giữa nơi biển khơi đang nở rộ ngàn bông hoa xa phố. Cánh hoa đỏ thắm bao hy vọng anh gửi về thằng em ơi. Ánh mắt em yêu như biển xanh, như trời xanh trong nắng mới. Nhớ cả dáng hình em mùa gặt nặng đôi vai. Sóng dù mối tình đời thủy thủ càng thêm vui. Đây con tàu xa khơi, đây con tàu xa khơi.
Bước vô, em đứng với anh xong, đứng dưới đây. Em tắt giúp cái nhạc lên một lát được không? Thương ơi. Thương à?
Testing, testing.
Đừng cái nào đứng chỗ đây. Đứng ra đây. Testing. Sau phiên hội thảo thứ 3, để đóng lại phiên hội thảo thứ 3 thì chúng ta sẽ có một câu chuyện ngắn với tiến sĩ Nguyễn Quốc Cường, là một tiến sĩ chuyên về ngành địa chất. Sẽ nói cái việc mà bạn tổ chức thiết kế cho cái phiên thứ 3 nó có ý nghĩa như thế nào trong cái hội thảo này. Cái việc hợp tác Việt Nam Ba Lan đã có từ lâu đời, đặc biệt đấy là vừa rồi gần đây chúng tôi có tổ chức một cái hội thảo mang tiếng gọi là hội thảo, nhưng mà nó nói lên về cái lịch sử và cái triển vọng giữa Việt Nam Ba Lan trong cái lĩnh vực khoa học trái đất, tài nguyên thiên nhiên, bảo vệ môi trường và phát triển di sản. Thế thì đây là một trong những bước mà chúng tôi liên tục trong một cái hệ thống, một chuỗi những các cái hội nghị khoa học chúng tôi trình bày, giới thiệu với mọi người, cả các hai nhà nước thôi, những nhà lãnh đạo và quan tâm đến sự phát triển của Việt Nam với cái mong muốn của Ba Lan, với nhà khoa học Ba Lan cũng như chính phủ Ba Lan đầu tư sâu cho trong cái lĩnh vực về khoa học biển, địa chất, về khoáng sản, về môi trường, về bảo vệ. Thế thì cái buổi hôm nay chúng tôi được tham gia ở đây cũng là một cái vinh dự, một cái mà mong muốn của chúng tôi là để thể hiện được như là quý vị đại biểu thấy, chúng tôi đã trình bày với cái hướng nghiên cứu đã có thành tựu và bây giờ mong muốn được tiếp tục phát triển. Đấy là lĩnh vực nghiên cứu về khoa học kỹ thuật, tập trung vào nghiên cứu về khoáng sản, đầu tư vào nghiên cứu về khoáng sản, đặc biệt là khoáng sản quý hiếm. Hai là chúng tôi tập trung nghiên cứu về môi trường. Về môi trường thì bây giờ có cái là nghiên cứu về những cái dạng san hô dưới biển, để mà đánh giá biến đổi khí hậu cũng như là đánh giá mức độ ô nhiễm môi trường qua nghiên cứu sinh hóa các cái dạng san hô. Cái đấy là một trong những cái mục tiêu mà của việc xây dựng cái trạm nghiên cứu nhiệt đới Ba Lan Việt Nam tại Việt Nam. Thế thì cái một điểm thứ 3 nữa mà chúng tôi trình bày là nói về thành tựu nghiên cứu của Ba Lan, thành tựu của Ba Lan trong cái việc nghiên cứu về khảo cổ, trùng tu cũng như là bảo tồn di sản văn hóa của Ba Lan trên khắp thế giới. Vừa rồi mọi người xem cái bộ phim là giới thiệu như thế, tức là nói về các cái thành tựu của Ba Lan trên khắp thế giới, làm đâu có đặc thành tựu. Và vừa rồi ấy, thì chúng tôi đã triển khai ở Việt Nam một số những các cái nghiên cứu bước đầu để xây dựng những các cái dự án lớn trong việc nghiên cứu về khảo cổ, trùng tu và bảo tồn di sản. Thế thì ở trong bộ phim ấy cũng có nói về ông giáo sư Polish-Vietnamese. Ông ấy đã vừa sang Việt Nam và cũng đã bay lidar, bay drone, sử dụng drone để bay cái lidar và tìm thăm dò các cái di chỉ hang cổ dưới lòng đất trong Nam Sơn, và chúng tôi đã có kết quả và hy vọng sắp tới là sẽ dựng được những cái đề tài lớn, những cái dự án lớn hơn, mở rộng hơn những các cái vùng mà khảo sát. Thế thì đây hôm nay cũng chính là một trong những cái mà mong muốn của chúng tôi, và cũng như là để đóng góp vào trong cái hội nghị khoa học, từ hội nghị khoa học có những cái tiếng nói đến tới những cái nhà quản lý, những nhà lãnh đạo của cả hai đất nước để mà có những cái mà hỗ trợ cho cái sự nghiệp nghiên cứu phát triển nghiên cứu, đóng góp cho sự phát triển của Việt Nam Ba Lan.
Nói về cái việc mong muốn đó thì tôi có nghe vị giáo sư lặp đi lặp lại khá nhiều lần là ông có cái ước mơ là lập một cái trạm, một vài cái trạm nghiên cứu không phải ở Hà Nội trong văn phòng mà là ở ngay dọc bờ mà ông thấy có những cái rạn san hô rất là lý tưởng để mà lập những cái trạm như vậy. Điều đó nó có ý nghĩa gì? Thế nào mà ông giáo sư đó lại rất là mơ cho cái điều đó không? Tại vì như thế này, tức là cái việc mà giữ kiến xây dựng cái trạm nghiên cứu về nhiệt đới Việt Nam của Ba Lan Việt Nam thì đã có từ lâu, nhưng mà nó do nhiều các cái điều kiện về xã hội, về kinh tế thì cuối cùng cái việc xây dựng cái trạm ấy đã bị dừng lại từ năm 2011. Và đây chính cái trung tâm mà chúng ta vừa xem ấy, là cái trung tâm mà rất là khang trang các thứ như này, cái phòng học rất khang trang này, là và cách đây như thế là 14-15 năm là phía trường đại học tổng hợp xin được cái dự án đầu tư của châu Âu, EU, châu Âu, thì muốn là lấy cái tiền đấy, khoản tiền đấy để xây cái trạm ở Việt Nam. Nhưng rồi cuối cùng là đã tìm được địa điểm, một cái địa điểm rất là đẹp ở miền Trung Việt Nam, nhưng mà không thực hiện được. Cho nên cái tiền đấy người ta đã dành lại, người ta xây dựng cái gọi là cái trung tâm nghiên cứu sinh hóa trong trường đại học tổng hợp Warsaw. Thế thì cách đây 2 năm thì bây giờ lại phía Ba Lan, trường cũng là trường đại học tổng hợp, vận động được cái nguồn, có khả năng vận động cái nguồn vốn mới. Chúng tôi quay trở lại cái mục đích là phải dựng một cái trạm nghiên cứu về nhiệt đới ở Việt Nam. Đấy. Thế thì nghiên cứu nhiệt đới Việt Nam thì là phải nghiên cứu ở trên cái gì? Các cái dạng san hô, dạng san hô nằm ở dưới biển. Hai nữa là kết hợp với các nhà khảo cổ thì muốn là tìm những cái di chỉ những cái đang nằm ở dưới thềm lục địa mình, nằm ở dưới đáy biển. Chính vì thế mà những các cái trạm nghiên cứu phải được đặt ở những các cái vùng ven biển thì nó mới có ý nghĩa. Thế nhưng mà hiện nay thì chúng tôi năm trước thì là chúng tôi đã vì do cái thời gian nên chúng tôi đã phải buộc phải thành lập tượng trưng hai cái phòng ở Hà Nội nằm trong khuôn viên của cái viện khoa học kỹ thuật và khoáng sản. Những cái phòng đấy là chỉ là phòng làm việc, phòng họp, hội họp thôi. Thế còn thì chúng tôi sẽ dự kiến là làm những các cái trạm di động, ví dụ như ở trong dạng container, trạm di động mà chúng tôi sẽ đặt ở ven bờ biển. Đặt ở ven bờ biển như thế thì khi mà nghiên cứu độ khoảng ở cái vùng này 1 năm 2 năm thì chúng tôi đặt để cái trạm ở đấy. Sau khi nghiên cứu xong vùng đấy mà muốn di chuyển nó đi sang một cái vùng khác, chúng tôi cơ động để mà đưa được cái trạm nó đi. Cho nên chính vì thế mà đấy là cái thiết tha mong muốn khi mà chúng tôi tìm cái vị trí để đặt cái trạm. Trước là tìm một cái vị trí rất đẹp ở Phú Đô, nhưng mà cái sau đó để chục năm thì bây giờ là cái vất vả, bây giờ là dành cho học là khó rồi, để cho những nhà kinh doanh bất động sản, kinh doanh du lịch người ta xây resort là khá hơn, là kiếm được hơn cái hơn khoa học.
Trên bên lại tìm ra được một cái điểm cũng rất đẹp, đấy là vừa rồi anh sẽ thấy đấy, tức là cái chỗ vùng Ba Làng An, cái khu vực Ba Làng An là chính là cái mà cái cây đèn biển đấy, cái khu cây đèn biển nó cảnh quan rất đẹp mà điều kiện cơ sở hạ tầng cũng rất tốt. Thế và khả năng là cái trạm di động đầu tiên nghiên cứu về nhiệt đới ở Việt Nam sẽ đặt ở Ba Làng An.
Có một cái chi tiết nữa mà nhìn trong những cái hình ảnh trình bày ở đây, tôi thấy có một cái tượng của một nhà khoa học Ba Lan ở Hội An. Dường như đó là một cái vị mà đã phát hiện ra được những cái giá trị của Hội An, cho nên là được ghi công ở đó. Và một lần nữa cũng là một nhà khoa học Ba Lan.
Đấy là kiến trúc sư Kazimierz Kwiatkowski, mà người Việt Nam mình thân mật gọi là ông Kazik. Ông là một người có công hiến rất lớn cho Hội An nói riêng và cho cái bảo tồn di sản văn hóa ở Việt Nam nói chung. Thì ông đã làm đầu tiên là làm ở Hội An, và cái quan điểm trùng tu của ông Kazik về cái việc bảo tồn là đã được coi như là thuyết phục được chính phủ Việt Nam, các bạn đồng nghiệp Việt Nam làm theo cái phương pháp là bảo tồn nhưng mà phải giữ đúng cái nguyên dạng ban đầu, chứ không phải kiểu như là làm bảo tồn nhưng mà lại làm mới đi. Thế thì sau đó thì ông đi một lần đi đi làm ở Huế, ở chỗ Thế Miếu ở Huế, thì ông ấy mới phát hiện ra được cái Hội An, và ông bảo đây là vàng, các bạn nằm trên đống vàng. Và từ cái câu nói của ông như thế, tức là đây Hội An là vàng, và từ đấy là ông ấy vận động, là ông ấy đưa được Hội An, trùng tu lại Hội An và đưa được Hội An lên thành cái di sản văn hóa thế giới mà được UNESCO công nhận.
Cảm ơn tiến sĩ Nguyễn Quốc Cường rất là nhiều. Đó là những cái background, nền tảng về cái sự hợp tác Ba Lan Việt Nam trong cái vấn đề địa chất và khảo cổ. Chúng ta sẽ tạm đóng lại cái gọi là section 3, cái phần 3, để mà lát nữa đây chúng ta sẽ nghe một cái phần trình bày sau cùng ở phần 4, đó là tình hình Biển Đông hiện nay, hiện trạng Biển Đông hiện nay. Cảm ơn tiến sĩ rất nhiều.
Cảm ơn anh.